welcome back to the garage. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please go ahead, click on subscribe, and also click on that bell to receive all the updates and activities on my channel. All right, so I think it's been about a month and a half since I posted any type of videos, and but really I've been busy with work, family, and everything that comes in between. And but it doesn't mean I haven't been out here doing stuff. I've really been keeping busy. So, but here's the latest on the Corvette. So last time we made a video on this. We were talking about doing some front end work on it, and I have to say that the front end, as far as tie rod ends, ball joints, shocks, control arm bushings, are all done. So you can see the new ball joints down there, new shocks, control arm bushings in the upper and lower control arms. And so took about 2 weekends to take care of the Corvette in the front end, and pretty much that is behind us. Wasn't bad, but wasn't fun either. But again, you're dealing with a car that's what, 40 years old at this point, so dealing with old hardware and stuff along that lines. But for the most part, she came through the operation pretty well. One thing we've done is I've actually put on a new set of rims and tires for this, and the reason why is the original rallies, the tires that were on it were completely dry rotted and they were unsafe. So what we're probably gonna do in the spring, we're actually probably gonna put another set of rims and tires on it. But what I want to do is just get something on here to make it safe and drivable. So these actually popped up on Facebook Marketplace for 500 bucks, and the tires had no miles on them. They actually still had the rubber nubs on them, and so we picked those up for about 500 bucks, and then I actually ended up selling the rallies for 175. So in reality, 4 tires and 4 rims cost me 325 bucks. So, and I'm probably gonna be able to sell these again in the spring when we put on another set of wheels and tires on this. But again, we're trying to save money anywhere we can on this, and keep it under control. And again, it's gonna be a driver. It's not gonna be a show car at any point in life as far as with me owning it. But you know what? We are gonna make it dependable and mechanically solid and safe, and we'll go from there. So now it's October 1st. So the weather is starting to change, and we probably have about another 4 to 6 weeks that we can drive this, and then we're gonna put away for storage and go from there. So we'll be doing a couple more things on the Corvette, but we'll see how it goes. One thing we have to do is, if you notice, I don't have an inspection sticker on it yet because we've been slowly plugging away at projects and stuff like the front end tires and everything else. So there was no reason to get it inspected because I knew it was going to fail. So one thing I have to do is I have to get the emergency brake adjusted in the rear, and I'm probably going to document that because the process on this is a little bit unique. So look forward for a video on that. All right, as far as Emily's Evo, what we're gonna do with this guy in about a month and a half, once we get the parts in, we're gonna put the Evolution kit in it, and it's gonna have the full suspension in it, which is gonna basically raise the center of gravity in the front and the rear, and actually give it a full suspension like a regular Indy. So the Evolution kit also comes with the CDI, the clutching, the throttle lever, and everything else. I'm probably not going to put that on at this point because honestly, my daughter really doesn't go that fast on it. If she goes 40, 45, she's doing pretty good. And really, the intention of the kit for her, for our situation, is just get a full suspension on it, so it's a little bit more comfortable to ride throughout the day as she gets older and she gets a little bit heavier. So we're gonna order parts for that in about a month, I guess, maybe sooner, and see where we're at with that. Because last time I checked, Polaris Indy had the parts for it in stock. So hopefully we can get that squared away before the snow flies. All right. So the latest project sled in here, well, it's really not a project sled, it's more of a flip sled. I actually picked this up in March, right after I got laid off. And so I picked this sled up. So this is a 2000 Indy 500. Now I also picked up a 98 Indy 500 with a blown motor. That's going to be coming in next in the garage, and then we'll go through the process of taking the engine out and put a new one in and going through everything on the process in case you guys are interested. But this sled is actually in pretty good shape, and when I bought it from the person I bought it from, he said he only had it for like a year, and he said it always ran like crap. So he can never figure out why. I guess the other person that he bought it from really didn't disclose any information, but based on what he said, he could tell something was off on it when he bought it, but he bought it anyway. Hope he could fix it. So when I bought it, it completely bogged out. It would barely even move. And so what I found out is the reason why. It has two different carbs on it. So if you look, this is the regular Polaris 38 millimeter carb on the Indy 500s, and on the Ultras, everybody has seen these things. They're pretty much pretty common. So if you look, this is also a Mikuni 38 millimeter carburetor. But if you start to look, you can see some differences. So over here you have the venting, which is completely different. The fuel inlet is different. This one has the idle adjustment screw on one side, whereas the Polaris, it has it on the other. And if you look, there's some threaded holes in the body of the carb, and then there's a screw for some reason, unknown reason. So then if you flip it over, right, again, the venting looks similar on this side, but again, the throttle, where the throttle adjustment screw should be, it's capped off. It's on the other side, and then the air screws are right there. But you know what? Having no idea where that carb came from, I said, you know what? I have no idea what was done to that one in the attempt to get it to run right. So I just made an investment just to take these out and get a new set of carbs for them and be done with it. And honestly, that's the most logical thing to do, because at that point you have no idea what you're dealing with, jets and needles and slides and everything else. So we took those out and we put another set of carbs in it. So here's a little quick tip for you guys. If you're ever doing carb work, right, you put the carbs back on, and a lot of people know sometimes you got to pull the sleds over like 30 or 40 times before you prime it. And here's a little tip for you guys to make it a lot easier. Just take a small funnel and a hose, put it on the fuel inlet, and just pour some gas in there, pre-fill the bowls on both sides. And usually doing it that way, the sled's gonna start in 2 or 3 pulls every time. Because, again, we have to remember, when you put the carbs on, the bowls are completely dry, so you gotta draw gas out of the tank into the fuel pump, blah, 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 and then fill both of the bowls, and then eventually it'll fire, or usually it'll fire on one, then it'll catch up, and then usually you're gasping for breath. So again, just do this little trick. It'll save you a lot of headaches and your shoulders as well. So one thing I noticed once I got the carbs back on is that this sled was, even though the carb and the slide heights were set correctly, the sled liked to engage, actually had a high idle, right around 28 to 3,000 RPM, which is very high. These sleds should idle between 15 and 1,700 RPM. And I noticed when the handlebar cover was on, it was actually sitting high. And the reason why is because somebody at some point threw a riser on the handlebars, which is fine. But typically when you install these handlebar risers, what you want to do is you always want to install a throttle extension. And the reason is because if you look, I think this is probably like a 2.5 inch extension or riser. So what will happen is it will actually, when you raise it, it will shorten the throttle cable, right? So if you guys are confused when you say, well, the cable's the same length, what do you mean? So what happens is when you adjust it or you put a riser on, it's actually putting tension on the cable, and what will happen is the slides will draw up. So you really won't notice it too much at idle, but what will happen is, like on this one, if you turn it to the right, what you're gonna see is, so right now, if everything was in a stock position, that throttle block or union, or whatever you want to call it, should lie in the airbox in the clip. But because it's short, you can't, and it draws on the slides. So what will happen is, if you look at the throttle cables, right, it's not that much, but if you look, you'll see that the throttle cables are moving, right? So what's actually happening is, as those cables move, it's actually drawing up on the slides, right? And what will happen is, if you go into a hard right corner, right, and slow speeds, and you crank it over, you're gonna have the throttle kick up, and you're not gonna have any control of the sled. So what we're gonna do is, to make this safe, because this is gonna be a flip sled, we're gonna sell it. I'm actually gonna remove the riser, get it back to stock form, and go from there. So why don't we do this? I already got the hardware to get the riser out. So let's go swap that out. All right, so we got the riser off, everything's back together. So let's go ahead and give this thing a pull. Half pull. Yeah, you know, it's got 7,100 miles on it, but these Fuji 500s, these things last forever. Take care of them, and they'll go forever. Things will run like a top. So, all right, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, go leave them in the comments box. Get back to you as soon as I can. And this thing will be for sale probably within about a week and a half. Just got to do a couple more things on it, and then it will be posted for sale. All right, guys, talk to you later. Have a good night. See ya.